Thank you. So right now, schools have started e-learning in Ontario, and the criteria for priority setting who gets care is happening. What that means is if there are 100 people who need care, but there's only 30 beds, they are deciding who gets those 30 critical care beds. And this is really, really tough, trying to make those kinds of decisions. From a government perspective, if you haven't muted, please mute. Your government legislation and decisions are happening. The Trudeau government announced CERB was created. This is the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, $2,000 per month benefit to streamline COVID aid. Before it was various amounts, but they're trying to simplify things. There's a mandate of 14 days self-isolation on return travels, or fines up to $75,000 or imprisonment. There is a new account called the Canadian Emergency Bank Account, where $40,000 in loans have been instituted, of which $10,000 will be forgiven, and criteria that are set aside. Trudeau will be announcing them later today. One of those will be your payroll of 2019. If you have 50,000 or up to $1 million in payroll, you will be eligible for that 40,000 loan. They are deferring GST, HST, and exercise taxes, and details on that you can find. And the other thing is increasing the wage subsidy from 10% to 75% of wage subsidies for those that qualify. So right now, tough decisions. A lot of people are working remotely. A lot of companies have closed their businesses or modified them in some ways. So how will you survive? This map shows you the spread of COVID, and you can see how profuse it is now in the United States and Europe, and slowing down in some other areas or waiting to spread. Next slide. Oh, I have control. So we started this series really to focus on helping managers, business owners, and HR professionals with some of the information and some tips and strategies on how to make it better. My name is Hilda Gann, as I said, and I'm the creator of a concept called Connect with Rev Up. And my husband and I had our own engineering company, which we grew to 7 offices across Canada and became one of the top best workplaces 2 years in a row. My expertise is in healthcare, engineering, IT, and human resources. What I'd like to do today is then share the key business messages that you should be thinking about to communicate effectively in this time of social distancing, to look at some of the positive things that you can do as you're having some difficult conversations. And I'll use layoffs as a good example of that. And then share this concept of Rev Up and how it can be an effective approach as you're trying to deal with COVID-19. At the end of COVID-19, what will people say about your company? Were you a company that cared about their staff, that cared about their clients and kept clear communications? Or were you one of those people that was taking advantage of the situation? So one of the things you want to do is identify your key business message. Do you want to be a company that's known as one that cared, that put safety first of its clients and of its staff? And did you send messages about caring about families and that we're all in this together? These are some of the messages that both the Trudeau government and the Ford government, Ford being the premier in our province of Ontario, are sending. They're letting us as Canadians know that they want to take care of us. They want us to not worry so that you can focus on your families and you can focus on thinking about your future and being not so stressed about it. So I challenge you, if you have not already done so, to think about what is the key message that I want to have, that I want to send, and use that as a basis as you go forward. So some tips and strategies to communicate effectively is get the facts, search for the information, look at it as facts, and use your connections. If you know somebody in HR, if you know an accountant, if you're good at Google, if you've got internet connections, groups that you can belong to. Get facts. Then know when to act and know when to wait. One of the things people wanted to do was lay off as soon as they found out. And I advise some people, the government's making an announcement on Monday. Wait till the announcement, because that may change what you say and how you act. So do look at timing and look at your own perspective of your business. Remember to use those key messages that I mentioned in the last slide. Evaluate risk, finance, and the impact on your decision. What you're deciding is not just about how to manage staff and clients, it's about the viability of your company. So that takes into account cash flow, that takes into account what is your anticipated revenue. If you're in a seasonal business and you don't see any revenue coming in from till September, this means that you probably won't see any now until September. So think about all of those things as you're making the decisions. Work towards creating an open and honest relationship. Be as transparent as possible. As a business owner, you want to share information that keeps people from worrying too much, that keeps them being as productive as possible. But you don't want to share information that isn't fact at this point, that you're still contemplating, unless in contemplating it, you want your people to understand where things are going. So when I say create trust, it doesn't mean it's an open book, but judge what information you need to share and share it with honesty. Dan Price, who is a person that I follow, he's the CEO that basically lives off of a $67,000 paycheck and wants all of his staff to have a living wage. He said he sat down and he's talked about layoffs with his staff openly so that they can come to that decision together. That's one strategy. Again, you know your company, you know what you need. Do what you think is best for your company. And then I would encourage people to stay connected with their staff and their clients, to send the messages that they want to send in terms of those key messages. So that can be in the form of general mails, that can be calls, and even one-on-one conversations. Because in the end of the day, it's how you responded, how you connected, that will make a difference to the longevity and the ongoing relationships you have in the future. So let's use layoffs as an example. So get the facts, check the legislation, and look. There are various sites that you can use. I've included a couple at the end of today's session, but make sure what you're getting isn't opinion pieces, but they are facts. Obviously, the government websites, some of your chambers of commerce, or we have a Canadian business association that really helps us here in Canada. So think of what the impacts of that is on COVID-19. What are some of the alternatives? And determine the right actions, whether it's, in this case, I would say that you should provide letters to all of your staff and their ROE. Some of our clients that I've been speaking to, reminding them that they should write letters. You know, they sit down and they talk to their staff, but they haven't put something in writing, and they need to do that. And there are templates that you can have. I certainly can help people look at the letters that they want to write. Know when to act and when to wait. And that's the example I gave earlier of telling that person to wait. Now, some of you might have already started your layoffs, and with that announcement on Friday of 75% wage subsidy, are needing to rethink that. Do rethink that. If it makes sense that you can bring people back, then you might want to do that. And the reason you do that is because we're in a time of change, and fluidity is and adaptability is there. So staff would adapt to any change that you make based on information that has allowed you to shift the decision that you've made. Follow that key message. So in this case, you're talking about the safety is why you might have had people go on layoffs, that you care about the staff and you want to make a balance. In some cases, it may make sense for people to put them on laid off and do ROE. Just a little tip for the ROE, I was reading the other day, the government only wants you, if you're filling out an ROE, to just write if it's a shortage of work then put shortage of work. If it's because they've been on quarantine or they themselves have COVID-19, then you just put the illness section. Check that off. And again, they do not need any comments. They do not want any comments. When you look at the risk finances aspect, look at those other options. There is the work share program. It takes 30 days from the time you apply for it to go into effect. I will be sharing more about that on Wednesday when I talk about the tough business decisions and business survival. But work share is another option, shorter work weeks. Communicate whatever you do, communicate it effectively. So important. You should be giving those letters to your staff, and you should share messages effectively. Make them feel it's about them in a personal way rather than just a mass layoff. If you're a large corporation, obviously there is a little bit of impersonality to it sometimes, but you can try to make it as personal as possible. Use this time to create those open, honest, transparent relationships and try to distill and minimize the fear as much as possible. I would make sure that those people who are laid off, that you follow up with them and contact them to see how they're progressing. And if you have any ideas of when you're planning to come back, then you can share that with them as well. So how do you maintain positivity during difficult conversations? I think one of the hardest things is speaking to people about something that you find difficult. And one of the things that I've used is a method that really helps people. And I think the two key points is really listening and then responding with what you know. But if you don't know, tell them and then look it up. So when you're talking to people, then using the laid off as the example is you start with the key message. What message do you want to say when you say it to that person? So in this case, you want to make sure that they understand you're trying to do the best for them and the company, and that you care about them, and but you want the company to survive. So this is a tough decision that needs to be made. Listen to people, because sometimes what people want is just that opportunity to share how they're feeling about a certain situation, or sharing facts when you're looking into investigating something. Try not to prejudge and just let them be heard. Sometimes people just want to ventilate and it makes them feel better. Whenever I've talked to people, I always look at a situation from an honest and truthful perspective and try to build a relationship. That doesn't happen overnight, but through continuous through continuous conversations, you will develop a stronger, more trusting relationship. And that's what you want in any difficult times. Respond to people by just sharing what you know right now, but you don't have to have all the answers, because I find sometimes people will say stuff that they do have to then renege on, and that's hard. So better to say what you do know, and what you don't know, say, I'm not sure what the answer to that is, but let me get back to you. And if you're a manager, you may not know the policies, you may not know the perspective of what the company has, so that's a good answer. When you're the owner yourself, you don't have to know the answer. You say, let me think about this, because I want to make sure I get back to you with the right decision. So let me get back to you. And then whatever you say, if you're going to do it, do follow up. Don't just leave them hanging for a week or so. So let me share what concept let me share with you Rev Up. It's a concept that I created based on the success that my husband had creating that best workplaces in Canada. We wanted our company to be different. We wanted people to really understand what they could do when they worked at our company. And our company was founded on trying to be the best at what we did, but also make it a great place to work where people were cared for and we understood. So the concept is an acronym for respect, building trust with people; equality, treating everybody as equals in that their roles are equally important; Valued, as in I value you. Let people know that you feel and care for them as individuals. When you do that, it increases productivity and makes them feel like they're part of the family, part of the team. Look for uniqueness in people and tap into that potential. Oftentimes, we evaluate people and we want to build on their weaknesses. My theory is build on their strengths and they will produce more and care more and thrive more. During this time of difficulties and fears of COVID, we need to stay positive. So I ask you to consider this concept of Rev Up and see if it will work with you on building your team and building that trust with your employees. Some of the benefits then, you develop a trusting and caring relationship. You manage difficult conversations and you build a positive and strong work culture. So enough said on that today, but I will expand upon that in later series as well. Here are some of the resources that I wanted to share with you. These are talking about layoffs, salaries, and EIs. This was a good article that was in the Globe and Mail, and it speaks in English, really easy to follow English. The second one is from the organization Canadian Federal Independent Business, and they have a host of resources for you. The last one is the economic, the CERB, the CERP, CERP, the COVID-19 Economic Response Plan, Support for Canadians and Business, and this is the government site, and a host of other government links as well. Again, this will appear on the slides that we will send you. I do have a couple of upcoming sessions. One is on the business survival. I know a few of you have already signed up for that. And I think that one is a real key. You might want to budget 45 minutes because we will talk about the host of things that you need to think about as you're making these tough decisions. And the one that's the following Monday is change leadership. It's transformation in its greatest form, what we are experiencing right now with COVID-19. And I want to help you as managers understand that concept of change leadership. People are looking to you to make those tough decisions and to communicate them effectively. So let me share that more with you. This is some contact information, and I think we are open to the question and answer period now. I will mention the things that we plan to do is we will send a copy of this to you, the slides, for everybody that's registered, whether they were able to participate today or not, if you registered. We will send you a copy to the link of the YouTube for this presentation. We are offering a 30-minute free consultation to talk and dive deeper with you with regards to your unique situation. So you can see in front of you a link to my calendar to make an appointment. And I forgot what the fourth thing is. I'm sorry. If you remember, Jenny, you can pipe in. And I'll start opening the chat line to see if there's any questions that were sent. Jenny?
Yeah, just to follow Hilda just now, I think she was just missing that we will be doing the surveys for any feedback that you might have on how we did today and any possible topics that you want us to cover in the future.
Thank you for that.
And if anyone has any questions, you can type them and we'll give them a 1 minute or so.
Okay. The other thing that I would like you to put into this chat box is we are trying to plan for subsequent sessions. I'm thinking of having a lawyer come and talk. If you want me to bring on an accountant or a bookkeeper, we've got a couple of other topics lined up. I've kept the last few topics open because I really wanted to see how the government changes were unfolding. So if there are topics, please put them in the chat line because we are trying to formulate the next 4 weeks of training of webinars that we plan to have. Are there any questions? Again, this was all about messaging, sending the right messages to.
Yeah, so we have one question here. One person asked, what should you typically include, like important parts in a layoff letter?
Okay, in the layoff letter, you would identify, you would start off by mentioning COVID-19 and the impact that that has had. I would share a message about your company, and how you've had to come to this tough decision. Keep it, 2, 3 sentences at the most. And then, therefore, it is with regret that we've decided that we need to do layoffs. This does not come lightly. Then I would state that the layoff is effective such and such a period. I would let them know that you are going to provide an ROE and when you will do that. Usually it is, and then usually people can start applying for their for the employment insurance without having the ROE. So I often will explain that to them is we will be issuing the ROE on such and such a date, but you can go in and begin to apply. And then I provide the link for that application to the ROE site. So if you go into one of those links that I provided you, the one with the Canadian Businessmen's Association firm, I forgot the name of it, then that one will show you where you can apply for ROE, I'm pretty sure. So that's one area that you can do. And then I would end it with something, thanking them for their loyalty, and we'll get through this. And if there's anything that you can do to make yourself open to be contacted. Again, those are some of the messages if you want to send a message of caring, and you could throw in safety as well. So does that help?
Great. Yes, thank you. Another person asked, a topic I'd be interested in is how to handle large gathering restrictions for events, and if there is anything from the government to assist for events that need to postpone or cancel.
Wow, that's a very, very good question. Again, what is your key message? And I think it's caring about people and saying, because of the safety, it is prudent to postpone this. So that's the care part of it, right? We actually had some training sessions that we were going to host in April and May. We haven't even announced that we're not doing them, but we replaced it with this. In providing these free webinars, we are showing the expertise that we have. We're showing that we care. And I think that leads to goodwill. So my personal message is we have that ability to help you in this time of need with human resources. And then send that out as goodwill. A lot of other companies are creating this free messaging. I think we have to wait until we can have events again and be prudent and think, just because, on June 15th, the government says we can go back to social gathering, think how many people are going to want to go to a social event for the first while. So some people are switching it up to virtual events and planning far out in the future, but offering different things. I hope that helps that person.
Great, thank you.
Again, if that person wants to have a one-on-one, again, I do offer a 30-minute consultation, and we can talk a little bit more about the particulars that you do have.
Great. Another question here. Can you clarify the difference in an ROE, shortage of work, versus termination?
Okay, so the termination definitely is different from a layoff, okay? Layoff is where you anticipate a person will be coming back and that you decide that for now you are not working. So that's not a termination. A termination is where this is your last day and you will not be coming back to work, so you are terminated. So termination is definitely different, and the ROE would be where you check off termination, and you could write shortage of work. Layoff would be a different thing. So you would check off the layoff button instead of the termination button. Okay. When I was referring to the layoff situation, there were two categories. One is the shortage of work. The second one is the sick. The sick one is in relationship to those criteria the government said you are not able to go to work due to COVID-19 for medical reasons. That could be the fact that you do have COVID-19, you're on quarantine because you've been exposed to it, that you've been traveling and are on a mandatory 14-day requirement. Again, if you go to the government's website, you will see the reasons that are covered under EI for medical reasons. And then the government offers another opportunity if for some reason you don't qualify under EI for medical reasons, you can qualify for non-medical reasons. And you can also qualify if you're not eligible for EI, because EI has criteria that you have to work so many hours in so many weeks. And if you don't, you're not eligible for EI. But again, that government's message of we want to care for you, we don't want you to worry about your family and your finances, here's what we want to do. They've created an EI benefit for non-EI people. So that in itself, what the government said is apply for EI. If you don't qualify, then you apply for the EI for non-eligible. And I don't know now whether they changed that to, if you don't qualify, if you do not qualify for EI under EI, then we will allow you, we will consider it EI for non-EI people. And for non-EI people, that can even be parents who never worked before. Other questions? Oh, one more example for the EI for COVID-19 for medical reasons. If you're staying at home to care for children or elderly or somebody else as a result of the COVID-19 situation. Any other questions?
So far, no more questions.
Okay, and we're just at 30 minutes today. I do encourage people to sign up for the business survival because we will dive deep, and plan to allot for 45 minutes because I think there's going to be a lot of information that I'll be sharing at that time. I do want to share one more thing with you people. We are setting up something that will help those businesses who really need more time than a 30-minute offering. So we are actually, we have a program for what we call HR on-call services. And that's where you can phone in and we provide you with information to help you. So this is more like kind of short term, I have a problem, how do I fix it? And we're going to offer 2 hours worth of services over the next 6 weeks to call whenever you want, if it's a 15-minute call or a 30-minute call or whatever. And we're going to offer that at half price. So if you're interested in that, again, do contact us and I'll be happy to talk more about that. Thank you for your time today. I know that Prime Minister Trudeau is talking right now about the 75% wage subsidy. So if you think about it, go hop on that call and have a good and safe week, and hope to catch up with some of you on Wednesday. Thanks, everybody. Bye.